Hello, I'm State Senator John Kavanagh, and this is another edition of Kavanagh's Corner, my legislative video report to my constituents. And the topic of this week's Kavanagh's Corner is the lawlessness and disorder which is sweeping across our nation. It begins at the top with President Biden, whose open border policy and whose transportation of illegal immigrants around the country, giving them all sorts of benefits, has literally created chaos, not only in border cities, which are overrun with these illegal immigrants, but within large cities across the country that are swamped with them and can't deal with them. And these illegal immigrants, some of whom are outright criminals. There was a horrible situation last week, a couple of days ago in New York City, in Times Square, where, by the way, I spent 20 years as a cop. 4 illegal immigrants attacked and assaulted police officers. They were arrested for felony assault. All 4 of them were released without bail back on the street. And to make matters worse, one of those 4 had been arrested for robbery a few months earlier. Arrested for robbery, let out with no bail, assaults a cop, again let out with no bail. This is the chaos that starts with Biden at the border and which continues in Democrat cities across the country. San Francisco, Los Angeles, Portland, New York, and more. Democrats in control, defund the police, hamstring police with all sorts of regulation and reporting requirements, and their left-wing prosecutors don't prosecute criminals. Stores are closing in San Francisco because shoplifters come in knowing that they will not be prosecuted if they don't steal more than $1,000. Mentally ill, homeless people wander these large cities, assaulting ordinary citizens. What is the common thread that runs through all of this lawlessness and disorder? Democrats. Not the ordinary Democrats that you know, not your neighbor, because I'm sure they don't support any of this. But the Democrat Party has been hijacked by an ultra-left-wing base. These are the people that vote in all the primaries. These are the people that go to the Democrat club meetings. These are the people that control the Democrat Party because Democrat legislators, congressmen, President Biden needs their support to get elected. They're running this country and they're running it into the ground. And we had a preview of what can happen here in Arizona because the same thing is occurring. My bill, Senate Bill 1073, was meant as a response, a proactive response to the latest left-wing lunacy, which is obstructing traffic, not incidental to a march or a demonstration, but obstructing traffic for the sole purpose of keeping people trapped. People were trapped on the Bay Bridge in San Francisco a couple of months ago for 4 hours because protesters blocked the bridge and the police in this left-wing city didn't clear them. Imagine being caught trapped in your car for 4 hours, no restroom. What if somebody had a heart attack? Several cars had organs they were trying to transport for transplant. This is the insanity that's happening. In New York City last week, thousands of protesters intentionally blocked the highways leading to Kennedy International Airport, causing thousands of people to miss their flights. And when you miss your flight because you can't get to the airport, the airlines have no responsibility to help you. No hotel room, nothing like that. You're on your own. This is the lawlessness that is occurring. And I wrote a bill making it a felony in Arizona if people intentionally obstruct traffic, 25 or more cars, right, to airports or anywhere for the purposes of obstructing people's passage. And I make it a felony if they are told to get out of the road and they don't. Every Democrat voted against that bill. Every single Democrat in the Arizona Senate voted against that reasonable bill to stop the madness here. What follows is my floor speech explaining the bill. Every one of those red names were Democrats who voted no. Every Republican voted yes. Don't let the chaos spread to Arizona. That's what happens when Democrats are in control. I'm State Senator John Kavanagh, and I will continue to fight for law and order and for you in Arizona. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Pro Tem, I rise to explain my vote.
Please.
First, to comment on the statement that this bill doesn't give potential violators any warning that what they're doing is illegal. The actual new section starts with the phrase, after receiving a verbal warning to desist. So only after you're told that you're breaking the law and you intentionally continue would this law go into effect. So there is more warning here to potential offenders than to almost every other law, because the cop has to tell you that you're breaking the law. Stop. Protests over the centuries have evolved. Certainly the invention of cell phones, where people can crowd share and mobilize demonstrations within an hour or so, it was a big step forward. But the evolution of protests, well, the evolution sometimes becomes a mutation. And recently, protests have mutated into a cancerous form, where rather than protests to bring your position to the attention of other people, people are now protesting by obstructing traffic to intentionally obstruct other people from going where they want to go. It's one thing to have a protest and to temporarily obstruct traffic as the march goes across the street, or to have a protest and several people spill into the street and it's hard traffic to get by. This bill is not about that. This bill is about people who intentionally get into traffic and stop cars for the purpose of stopping the cars, so that the inconvenience of stopping the cars and the newsworthiness of it gets them more attention for their cause. In reality, I think they're losing people's support when they do these terrible things, but that's another issue. The two examples that I'll bring to mind that inspired this bill, well, the one was the blockage of the Bay Bridge in San Francisco, where thousands of people were trapped on the bridge and the approaches for 4 hours. A couple of vehicles had organs that were going for transplant. What would have happened if somebody had a heart attack on that bridge? They would die there because there's no way for an ambulance to get through thousands of cars blocking the bridge. This is totally unacceptable. What do you do when you're in a car and you're stuck for 4 hours and you have to go to the restroom when a child is with you? This is unconscionable, horrible behavior. And it deserves a more serious punishment than the New Year's Eve revelers who get in the street and block a car for fun. This is really dangerous stuff. They blocked traffic recently going to Kennedy Airport. Thousands of people missed their flights. Now, if the airline screws up and you miss a flight, they have to give you a hotel room, they rebook you. You don't really get any consideration when you don't get there and it's not the airline's fault. So for those 1,000 or so people who couldn't make their flights at Kennedy, they were left nowhere. No flight, no hotel room, no nothing. I believe in proportionality. Let the punishment fit the crime. And to block regular traffic has always been a misdemeanor, no big deal. When you start blocking, obstructing traffic for thousands of people intentionally, there must be a more serious punishment. The punishment should fit the crime, and that's what happens here. And I know felonies are a serious thing, as was stated. And I made sure that nobody's charged under this section for a felony until they know what they're doing, until the cop says, you got to get out of that road. And they stay nonetheless. This is a necessary law because of a mutation of protest that is corrosive to our society, and it has to be stopped. It can victimize any of us or any of our constituents, and with that, I vote aye.
This is now closed. Secretary, record the vote by a vote of 16 ayes, 13 nay, 1 not voting. You've passed Senate Bill 1073.